Hello, everyone. Today is Sunday, February 22nd, and I'm coming to you live from my own in-home office. It's wonderful what you can do once the kids leave home. I want to talk to you a little bit about tomorrow's first discussion question and prep you a little bit on the preparation for how to write a discussion question, a hypothesis statement, and a null hypothesis. I'm going to cite and use as an example some information from a wonderful little book. I'm going to have to look at the title. It is called The Numbers Game, A Common Sense Guide to Numbers in the News, Politics, and Life by Blastland and Dilnot. It's really a delightful little read written by two Britishers who for years had a show on BBC discussing the nature of numbers and how they occur and affect us in our daily lives. Now, in the discussion question, we're going to give you a prompt. It's going to deal with dynamic versus static stretching techniques. We're going to ask you to write a short sentence on 3 different prompts. So let's talk a little bit about what those prompts mean and what they deal with. A research question basically is a broad, general question that a researcher expresses to try to find an answer to a question. In the case of the numbers game, the researchers discuss a situation in prisons in Britain in which researchers asked whether or not dietary supplements might cause a difference in prisoner behavior. So the research question might read something like, does the inclusion of dietary supplements in a population of British prisoners improve overall behavior or perhaps reduce the likelihood of aberrant or disruptive behavior? Kind of a simple approach to it. Many researchers will use that as a springboard to develop a hypothesis. So let's suppose that our researchers take this question, apply a methodology to a group of prisoners in Britain, and sure enough, they find that amongst this experimental population receiving the supplements, there is objective changes in their behavior. From that, a researcher could develop a hypothesis. Now, a hypothesis, according to Grattan and Jones, is a predicted result. Predicted result, not a prediction. And there's a distinction there. I might predict that the sun's going to rise in the east tomorrow morning, and odds are I'm going to be correct. If I'm not, it's not going to make any difference. But that's a prediction based on experience and what we know about the laws of nature. But a predicted result would be something like the inclusion of dietary supplements to a selected population of British prisoners will result in a positive change in behavior or a reduction in disruptive behaviors. And in this case, the researchers wrote pretty much that type of hypothesis, did a classic double-blind, they call it, experiment in which one group of prisoners received the actual supplements, another group received what they call a placebo, call them sugar pills. And sure enough, after a lengthy experiment found that those people receiving the supplements improved their behavior. The British researchers did report that then to the government, and the government promptly ignored it and really didn't do anything, even though they felt they had found something really significant. One reason why you might question these results is to say, well, wait a minute, what about other factors? Even though we have an experimental group, how do we know that this wasn't the result of that you did the study during the summer months and it was warmer and prisoners were more active, and in being more active, they worked off their aggression. So researchers have to control for those kinds of things so that the results aren't questioned. That then would be a hypothesis that you might write. Now, what is a null hypothesis? Null hypothesis is a technique employed by a number of researchers when perhaps the literature is unclear on a given subject. Perhaps you, in researching your topic, find that in the case of dynamic or static stretching, the research is kind of equivocal. Some people say, no, dynamic really works and has great results. Other people find that that's not necessarily true. So what you might then propose is a null hypothesis predicting no difference as a result of your experimental treatment. And so you say, something along the lines that the introduction of dietary supplements to British prisoners will not result in any significant change or difference in their behavior. You can then conduct your experiment, and if in fact there is a change in behavior, you reject the null hypothesis. One of the reasons that's important is it does lend objectivity to the researcher's approach to the subject. And I'm going to quote to you now. You're going to have to forgive me. I've got to pull the text up. Grattan and Jones are very, very clear about the need for a researcher to be objective. On page 25 of the second edition, they write, "Finally, the whole process of investigation is objective. The researcher has no influence on the findings and has no personal influence on the results. Such an approach has a number of characteristics," and they go on to describe control, replication, and hypothesis testing. So there it is. That's a little bit to help you as you approach your first discussion question. The question will be graded based on the thoroughness of your response. Whether or not you show me, the reader here, that you've read through the text and maybe incorporated some work from Grattan and Jones or outside sources, and whether or not you respond in a positive way to another student in class. I hope that by now you're giving some thought to a research topic for yourself as you work through this next semester, as you work through this process of developing a paper. And my final thought to give to you is, make sure as you conduct your research, you use good professional journals. And the reason I say that is it's going to be acceptable maybe to use Sports Illustrated as a reference in your work, but keep that to a very minimum. Sports Illustrated and others like that, newspaper articles, are made for mass production. They're made for people to do a quick read and really don't deal with the ins and outs of research. I read years ago an article in Sports Illustrated about how young people are suffering overuse injuries. It was well written and well done, but every source that the author cited was secondary. I was reading his interpretation of other original research, which tends then to kind of cloud the issue. He might have been writing to achieve his own means and not be objective, as Grattan and Jones insist that we must be to be good researchers. So make sure you use professional journals. I recommend Sport Discus, or that you go to Google Scholar for the source of journals and primary research. All right, the discussion question will open tomorrow. I'm going to post this on announcements and send it to you via email, and sure hope that it helps. And so until next time, good luck with this next assignment, and I hope that things are going well for you.